Some of you think that so you want to be a millionaire and you want to be a real estate agent is the same thing. Boy, have we got news for you. It's time to phone a friend. All right. This is the real story with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian,
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and this is where two broker associates talk about all things real estate. Hey, Sherry.
Hey, Adam, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're actually going to talk
Yes.
about being real estate agents.
Yes.
We had a couple inquiries of people that wanted us to mentor them, and
Yep.
we just thought it'd be good to kind of solidify some thoughts as we were talking about it, and thought we'd share it with our podcast audience, as opposed to just thinking about selling real estate to our clients. So, um,
I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people are curious about exactly how it works to get your license and what it takes to be a successful agent.
I think it's like a lot of fields where the formal education starts, and then the informal education is what you really need to do the job. I don't think it's
Absolutely.
unique to real estate agents, but I do think that there is a certain amount of um, misperceptions about our industry
Hmm.
because it doesn't seem like there's a expert. You don't have to have a PhD in real estate to be a real estate agent. The difference is you might actually need a little bit more to be a good real estate agent.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
what do you,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think
Um,
there's this perception that it's one of those glamorous careers. Ironically, I've worked in two industries that have that whole glam association. Everybody thought advertising was so glamorous, and in truth, neither one of them have anything to do with what people think it's all about.
I mean, so you're saying it wasn't like Mad Men?
It was exactly like Mad Men,
Well, what do you
even
mean
in
it
the
wasn't
1980s.
glamorous?
That's not glamorous, though.
Well,
You know, I think
Con
people thought photo shoots and, shooting commercials and entertaining clients, and there was plenty of that, but it was not glamorous.
yeah. I think there's a lot of hard work that people don't see, and so there's just the picture of you get to sell maybe a really beautiful multi-million dollar house, and that
Yeah.
feels, for lack of a better word, very sexy.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's a whole lot that goes into that, and it's not as simple as it looks, and B, most people are selling, well, I guess now it's about $1 million as an average price in Contra Costa County, but
Yeah.
most of the homes that are sold to regular people, and they are not at all sexy, but it does make a huge difference in people's lives, and that makes all the difference in the world. What was your first kind of step when you were thinking about getting into real estate, leaving the ad world? What did that look like for you?
Well, I wanted a job where I didn't have a boss. I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do or tell me what my title was going to be
Wait,
or
wait, wait, wait. You didn't want someone to tell you what to do? Yeah, that checks out.
Yes, it does check out. I wanted to be, the person who decided how much money I was going to make and which office I was going to sit in and what my title was going to be, and didn't want to have to report to anyone except, in this case, the governor of the state of California. But I held off for a while because I had this terrible fear about going into real estate.
Oh, well, tell me about what that fear is if you are willing.
I had this terrible fear that I was going to have to someday sell an ugly house.
Oh, boy, yeah. Since we've sold a couple ugly houses since we've been
Uh-huh.
together, I know that fear has come true.
And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I just, it's funny to think back and think that that is what held me back from jumping in and signing up for classes so I could get ready to take my test. But that was it.
Well, it's exactly the point that it's not sexy, right? Like houses are buildings, and buildings are
Yeah.
just buildings. There's nothing about them that is inherently, well, there are some things that are better than others, but it's not
Yeah.
morally better, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you do what you have to do. Were you at all anxious about being full commission and not having any paycheck at all?
No, because I had been full commission in my previous job, all the way back to 1989.
All right.
So
Okay.
that
So you
that didn't phase me.
didn't have you were already without a safety net.
I already did not have a safety net, and I had saved a big chunk of money. And it turned out to come in handy when I just one day walked away from my old job and didn't work for about 6 months while I figured out what I wanted to do. And it helped while I was getting started in real estate because you don't get paid, right away when you're brand new. Even
Yeah.
when you've been in the business for a long time, sometimes you don't get paid for a long time.
Yeah. Well, we'll
And
talk about kind of startup costs and kind of ramp rate, that kind of thing. But
yeah,
so you quit your job before you took any real estate classes and maybe
yes.
then waited and before you settled on taking those?
Yes, it was about 6 months before I finally thought, well, I think I will jump in and get my and start going to school to take my classes so that I could be ready to take my exam.
Yeah.
My realtor, who is still in the business, had encouraged me to do it. She thought that I had something that was going to, click with the business, and I didn't do that for a really long time, but I kept thinking about that, and it was very appealing to be my own boss and not have to report to anybody and to make my own hours and things like that. I didn't know that it was going to be as hard as it turned out to be. So,
I don't think most people don't know how hard it is to be successful. And if they knew, they would think twice about it.
well, it's represented on TV, and the reality shows is very different than what it is like in real life. So, how did you get into it? What was your process?
So, um, my family had rental properties,
Mhm.
and there was some property management going on. And my
Mhm.
undergrad was in construction, and I did remodeling with my dad and with a contractor from the church that I was growing up with. I worked with him for a while. And so I think it was in the back of my mind for a long time that at some point I'll get my broker's license so I could take over, quote unquote, the family business.
Mhm.
Um, and so even before I had my license, I was taking care of stuff for my parents. I didn't need to have a license to work directly for them.
Mhm.
And I kind of realized that the property management side wasn't as much fun because it's like you don't want to, I don't want to, clog toilet at 11 o'clock at night, or even worse, a leaky roof at 1 a.m. and going and getting a ladder and putting the infamous blue tarp over a roof in the middle of the night. Like I didn't want to do that. But consequently, when I got around to jumping into it more officially, I did go get my broker's license because if you want to do property management for other people besides your own, you have to have a broker's license. So I started out with a broker's license, kind of with the idea of property management, but realizing I really just wanted to do sales.
Mhm.
Um, I yeah, and I think because of my construction management background, I just love architecture. I love um, design, home design. I love how houses flow, and I love just going and looking at houses. I would go to open houses just because even when I wasn't shopping for a house, I mean, I'm always shopping for a house, but I'm not an actual buyer
Uh-huh.
um,
Exactly.
because I just found it really interesting.
It's you and I had different starts in the business because you were able to go right to a broker's exam or broker's license, whereas I had when I got started, I had to be an agent for 2 years before I could take my broker's exam. So that had changed. I had to go to classes in person because there was no online studying in 2001. I had to go to class twice a week, I think for 8 weeks, and then prepped for my for to actually take the test. But it's interesting how everybody kind of gets into it differently. And one of the reasons we're talking about it today is because you and I are approached all the time by people who think they want to be an agent and they want to go have coffee or sit down and go to lunch and say, tell me about how this happens. So that's the whole reason that we're talking about it today.
Yeah. I think that most of the times those conversations are, you're going to hire me and give me a salary and I'm going to get to go look at beautiful houses. And it's like, no, not even close. There are so many other aspects to it. And do you want to start out by talking about taking the license, I mean, taking classes and getting a license, or do you want to talk about what it means to be in the business of real estate? Because that's really only one step.
Yeah, let's just cover it briefly. I mean, nowadays you can sign up, pay your money, go online, study completely online, never talk to another human being, actually, which I found really helpful when I was going and doing classes in person. And you take little sample tests, and when you pass them, I think you have to get a minimum of 70% before you go on to the next class. And then when you finish them all, you can sign up with the state to take your exam. Um,
And you only have to get 70% on that exam,
that is correct.
which means there's a huge gap in your knowledge.
Well, I think there's a couple problems with that one. I mean, 70% is a C, right? We have a bunch
Yep.
of C students out there selling houses. That doesn't make any sense to me. And there's been conversations throughout the years that the DRE was going to make the test harder so that, maybe raise the quality of agents in general, which is a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
But I think that once I got my license, I realized that I hadn't learned a darn thing that was applicable to daily life as a real estate agent.
I think that getting your license, if we're going to say that there's maybe four or five big buckets of stuff you need to know as an agent,
Hmm.
getting your license partially covers one of those, which is understanding a real estate transaction. And
Hmm.
you really only understand it theoretically on paper in only 70%.
Hmm.
I would say that at most that's 20% of what we do as
Hmm.
a real estate agent. And people are like, "What do you mean? I thought that that's the whole thing is helping people
Hmm.
buy and sell."
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is that is the filling out the forms and following the legal rules is just a fraction of everything you need to know.
Absolutely.
I think there's five kind of big pots of information
Hmm.
categories. So one of them is understanding the transaction, which
Hmm.
includes knowing how to use the forms and the
Hmm.
rules. Another one is understanding the market. What's the current market, buyer's market, seller's market? Why
Yeah.
is it a buyer's and a seller's market? What are the indicators of that? What's happening at the national level and international level that might affect your local market? Because
Yeah.
ultimately, all real estate is local. So understanding the market. One is understanding the homes and houses and how they're built and how they're put together in their systems so that you could help your clients understand what repairs might be common in this kind of construction, or what are the HOA responsibilities to the
Hmm.
condo or a townhouse, and where does that
Hmm.
end, and your client asks you, is this a slab or a raised foundation, and why is that important? So you really got to understand how homes are built. The fourth one is understanding your clients, learning how to interact with your clients and hear what their needs are and what their wants are, and they might not even know all the possibilities, but your job as a real estate agent is to know what those possibilities are, hear what they're saying, and then educate them. And then the last one is how to market yourself, how to get out there and get people to trust you.
Hmm.
And because ultimately, people will know this, heard me say this before, that we as real estate agents, if you're thinking about being a real estate agent, you are the product,
Yeah.
and your knowledge in all these different five pots of is going to determine whether or not you're successful. Did you want to comment on any of those five big pots?
Well, I think we should take them kind of one at a time, but I mean, that pretty much covers everything that you need to think about if you're going to sell real estate, and much of that is not covered in getting ready to take your license or take your test so you can get your license.
Yeah.
Um,
So how do people find out about the rest of this? So they've taken what would you recommend people do as they've taken their test, or maybe they're getting ready to take their test?
mhm.
They're going to reach out to who and to do what?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do once you have a license in hand, or even when you're about to have a license in hand, is to find a broker, find a place to hang your license, as they say, and hopefully have a desk somewhere, and maybe if you're really lucky, a training program. And you go out and you start interviewing with broker managers.
Is that like a job interview? Like, are you going to get paid, or what happens there?
It is like a job interview. You go out and you talk to them, and you find out, in case you didn't know it. I think a lot of people don't know it. We've heard this before. What do you mean I'm not going to get a paycheck every week?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a paycheck every week. This is a commission only job.
Yeah. So,
And you have to spend money before you make money.
yeah. Yeah. So being a real estate agent is like a startup business.
Yeah.
And most startup businesses don't make money for the first X amount of time, whether
Yeah.
that's 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, hopefully not 5 years. Um, because you've got to start doing marketing. You've got to do things like buy your
Hmm.
vanity email address, and you got to pay for E&O insurance up front. And depending upon what brokerage you sign up with, you've got to do things like get business cards and buy signs and pay your MLS dues and all sorts of stuff like that.
Hmm.
So you could be putting out, not to mention the money you already put out for your classes, you can put out, $10,000 just before you are licensed to put your name out there to do
Yep.
business. And that doesn't even include marketing,
Yep.
which adds up.
That's just startup. That is just startup. And if you're really lucky, the broker that you sign on with will sometimes give you 100 business cards and maybe a sign or two. I don't know if they still do that. It's been so long since I,
Yeah.
uh, had my first broker interview, but sometimes they will give you a little something, to sign on. You don't have a lot of negotiation power when you're brand new. It's just like, I need to have a place to sign my license, my license. Will you take me on? Whereas if you're a more experienced agent, you can go out and ask for things.
So the primary way that agents get paid is commission.
Yeah, straight
Um,
commission.
I'm not even sure there's a secondary way, but commission. And there's a commission split. So,
Tell me about commission splits.
yeah. So when you may have gotten your first paycheck from McDonald's or wherever your first job was, Starbucks, and some guy named FICO took some money out, or FICA took money out of your paycheck and Social Security tax and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Commission will feel like that, except you still have to pay taxes on top of that. So let's say you sold a house and the commission was $10,000 for selling that house.
Hmm. Sounds
Depend
like a ton of money,
It
doesn't it?
does sound like a ton of
That's a
money.
big paycheck.
Yeah. You're gonna in this on the back of the napkin math, you're gonna learn that very little of that ends up in your bank account.
Right.
So for those of you listening, we're not complaining. I'm just doing some math education for people that want to
Yeah.
do real estate. Um, so typically most brokerages have a 6% franchise fee. So the first 6% goes to the broker to pay for things like overhead and the
Hmm.
name and licensing.
And
And
that's $600.
then um, you're on a commission split. And I'm not sure what your first commission split. The first one I was offered was 50-50, which meant that the next 50%, so another $5,000 or whatever the
Hmm.
math was there, went to the broker. So at most I was getting 5,000 minus 6%, so like $4,700.
So hang on a second. You're telling me, because I'm going to pretend I'm a brand new agent, that I've got to give the broker some of my commission?
Yes,
Why?
absolutely. That's a good question. So when there's all sorts of reasons why that is, you're not competent with just a salesperson's license
Mhm.
to run your own business because you don't know all the rules. You know what it is about selling, but you don't have the broker education.
Yeah.
So your broker is supervising you to make sure you're not violating all sorts of other laws. They're doing things like helping you get E&O insurance and an office space and a copy machine and a website presence and legal counsel and all sorts of other potentially marketing and other things like that. And the broker, that's their business model, is that they hire agents and they split the commission with them. Now, a 50-50 split is pretty uncommon these days, even for new agents. It's
Yep.
usually starts out closer to 70-30.
Yep.
The agent gets to keep 70,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of variety and it just depends on the broker. And so that's one of the questions that an agent might want to ask when they're
Okay.
interviewing with brokers.
All right.
Which I mean, when I got my license, I interviewed three different places, and two of the three places offered me a 70-30 split,
Hmm.
and one of them offered me a 50-50 split.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
but that the one that was 50-50, I don't regret not going there, but I think that that person would have really helped me because they had a lot to offer me beyond that split. At the moment I didn't recognize it, but when I look back, like that was really smart move. And so I remember, so I have my license. In this case, I have my broker's license. So I have a
Hmm.
lot of book knowledge and no
Hmm.
real knowledge. And I don't know anything about marketing myself or any of that.
No.
And so I asked the broker, I said, what do I have to do to be successful? I might even said, what are you going to
She
do
said,
to,
"What are you going to do to help me be successful?"
yeah, what are you going to do to help me be successful? And she said, well, it's all on you to be successful.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was a cop out on her part. But as I got more into the business, I realized what she was saying was, I'm only going to be as successful as I am entrepreneurial, as I'm taking the lead of my own business.
Yeah.
That brokers do not babysit agents in a way that they don't give you a salary. They're not going to hold your hand. I mean, they're going to put training wheels on you, but they're not going to pedal the bike. You
Hmm.
got to make the bike go forward.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for somebody else to do that, you're not going to succeed in this business.
So, I had a little bit different experience than most agents. I had signed on to be on a team, which was my old real estate agent and her husband, who was also an agent. And I was waiting for my license to arrive in the mail because that's how it happened in those days. And I came into the office one day and they were gone. The office had been cleaned out. And I mean, I was just a few weeks into having being in that office, and
And they didn't tell you they were leaving?
no, no. So I went into the broker manager's office and said, "What happened?" And he said they aren't here anymore. And I was like, "Oh, I guess they didn't, care about telling me or asking me if I wanted to go to wherever they go." And I asked him if I could borrow an office while I started looking for a broker because I needed a broker. And the place where I was a broker only agency, a brokerage. They didn't work with agents.
Mhm.
Um, and I started interviewing agents. And a few days later, this same manager came into my office and he said, that they wanted to offer me the opportunity to stay at that company and he would mentor me.
Oh, wow.
Nobody gets mentored in this business when they're brand new.
Yeah.
I lucked out. I was the luckiest person ever to get in the business and spent, the next 2 years working with him every single day on, all the things that you listed at the beginning of this podcast. How do you put a house together? What do you look for when you're walking through a house? How do you fill out forms? How do you negotiate? The only thing he didn't teach me was how to market myself because I was in a drastically accelerating market. I didn't need to market myself. I had more clients than I know what to do with, actually. So everybody has a little bit different experience. Most of them are more like what you had, starting from the bottom, and maybe you get a little bit of training. But mostly you're out there just bumbling through it on your own.
Yeah. So just to be clear, I did get some training. My first brokerage was a national franchise and they had the so the way that franchises work, you'll see a national name, but there's a local owned company that is a franchise of it. So
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's, J&J Real Estate, but really they're with Better Homes and Gardens or whatever.
Okay. All
So,
right.
so what you see is Better Homes and Gardens, but then you'll also see J&J. So they had some education tools that helped, and I learned a lot. That's where I learned the phrase "don't have commission breath" was in that
Oh,
training.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and really solidify the idea of market the way you want to be marketed to for a couple of reasons. One, perhaps you'll find it successful since that's what you like, and two, you'll find it more natural for you to lean into it because you won't be selling something you don't believe in or in a way that you
Hmm.
don't believe it,
Yeah.
and that makes a big difference. But I'm jumping ahead. Um,
Hmm.
so, so let's talk about mentoring, and maybe a little bit about being on a team
Hmm.
um, as a way of getting mentored. So, new agent, they're looking for brokerages. One of the things they should look for is a favorable split, but also looking for what is that broker going to offer you as a new agent to equip you to help you learn all the things you don't know. Because remember, all you have is maybe 20% of what you need to know to be successful as a real estate agent. You might know the forms and you might, in theory, represent a transaction, but all these other things. So, um, what do you think about joining a team, and what are things you might look for on a team within a brokerage that might be good for new agents?
So teams are very popular and have been for probably the last 10 years. They didn't exist when I got into the business. There were a few partnerships where it was a couple of people working together. But the advantage to a team is you can join, it's usually run by a more experienced agent. And if you get the right situation, you can get on the job training. You can follow people around, whether it's the head of the team or other agents, and go out and go on tour with them, which is a learning experience. Go out and go on appointments with them, sit at open houses with them. Have them help you write up an offer. The offer document that we use nowadays, I think, is what, 27 pages long when you get all the disclosures in with it.
Yeah.
And it's like completely overwhelming. I think it was 11 pages when I started, and it was like, took me forever to fill out an offer, to write up an offer in those days. And now I can sit down and write up an offer in, 15 minutes. But you need to know how to do that. And so if you're going to join a brokerage and then be part of a team within a brokerage, you need to interview the broker and interview the team and say, I know you also are going to take part of my commission. What are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
It's a great way to learn on the job if you pick the right team.
So typically, when the team takes some of the commission, they're maybe not taking it from the agent. They're typically taking it from the broker's side,
Yeah.
but not always. That is
Yeah.
something that definitely asks that. Um, and hopefully, so some of the questions you want to ask is, will that team leader, like you said, take you out on tour? Will they allow you to shadow them when they do a listing appointment, which is
Hmm.
very touchy because that
Yeah.
is both the agent's secret sauce about how they present themselves to a client and how they might differentiate themselves. So to share that with somebody else uh,
Yeah.
is a big ask, and but then also so you can see what they do, but then learn as much about go to the inspections, like the
Yeah.
part of what makes us really successful agents is that we have hundreds of transactions under our belts. And when we were new, we didn't know anything. We didn't know what we didn't know. And so the more, as a new agent, the more transactions you can be exposed to, looking at disclosure package, going with the primary agent to the appointment to meet the inspectors and do
Hmm.
the open houses and try and learn as much about those transactions as possible because every transaction is a little bit different and you learn something new with each one.
On everyone.
And is there a standard transaction? They're never the same, but there are some standard ones. But it's when
Hmm.
you start beginning to see the ones that are not standard, it helps you understand the kind of regular bread and butter um, type of transaction. Because if they're not gonna let you in on that, then they don't deserve anything from you.
Right.
Um, the next thing you might get from a team is to say, um, will there be any leads that are given to me, and will I
Hmm.
be included in the income of any of the transactions? And
Hmm.
those are separate questions and not the same.
Yeah.
Um, so leads might come from an open house, might
Hmm.
come from the broker getting a phone call, and it's a new buyer, like, hey, agent one, whatever your name is.
Hmm.
Here's this. I don't have a personal relationship with them. I'm giving them to you to go and try and win their business. So they can help that way. But then the other thing is that they may put you on as a co-listing agent or a co-buying agent
Hmm.
and give you a little of the commission and have you do some of the work. Those are kind of big asks, but if you can get those, that will help you get your career launched. I'm curious, when you got your license and you first joined a brokerage, how long was it before you had your first transaction that was just yours?
Hmm. So that's a good question. I got my license on October 18th, and 9/11 happened just under a month
Yikes.
later.
Yeah, wow.
And I hadn't been able to practice, actually go out on appointments or hold open houses because I was having problems getting my fingerprints taken because I don't have any fingerprints for some reason. And they wouldn't issue my license until somebody could get a good scan on my fingerprints. And while I was waiting for that, 9/11 happened and the phone stopped ringing. And they didn't really start ringing again until about January 1st. The whole thing came to a halt. And in January, I held a house open and picked up a client. I don't know how I did it, to be honest, because I just barely knew, how to unlock the door and put a sign out, much less talk to people. And they didn't buy that house, but they bought a house around the corner that was $1,450,000. And they were cash buyers.
A million four in 2002. Wow.
And that was a lot of money. That
That
was
is
a
a lot of
very
money.
expensive house. And I had no idea what I was doing. But my mentor got me through it. And the other agent was really helpful too, because he knew I was brand new. He knew I
Yeah.
didn't have a clue what I was doing. But yeah, so I guess about 3 months. And I thought, oh boy, I'm going to love this because I thought every transaction was going to be a million four.
Yeah, that was a nice paycheck in 2002.
It was a very nice paycheck. And I had an 80% split, which I don't understand why they gave that to me. So it was a pretty nice paycheck. My next transaction was just a few weeks later, and it was a $190,000 condo in Pinole.
Yeah, that's humbling. All right.
Yeah, it kind of was the two extremes, right? So,
Yeah. Well, I
um,
remember thinking I needed to do five $500,000 transactions to kind of break even from the part-time job I had had directly preceding going into real estate. Um, and I was 6 months before I got my first transaction.
well,
And I think like a lot of people, my first couple transactions were like really good friends who were willing to take a risk on me and to
mhm,
help me launch my business. And
yeah.
um, one of them was a referral from a property manager, uh, and it was a short sale. And and that was
Oh,
my
yeah.
first official listing was a short sale.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't my first closing, but it was my
No,
first
because short
listing.
sales are long sales.
Yeah, they took a long time. And what was ironic about it was that the company I was with had a short sale facilitator that you were required to use because there was so many kind of specialty and negotiating with the banks and everything
Hmm.
else. So I got a very limited paycheck for doing almost
Oh,
nothing
because you had
on a
to pay your
short.
split and pay the short
It,
sales facilitator.
Yeah. So, and it was a condo and but it was a wild transaction. So I mean like I did my first open houses. I didn't even know, like I think I brought staging to put on the counter in this but nothing else. My wife was like, "Can you bring back the canisters from our countertop?" Like
Exactly.
I needed the flour. Like, what are you doing? And brought a camping chair because there was no chair to sit in because it was vacant.
Because we were not staging in those days. We
Well,
were
and
coming
plus it
out of
was a short
session.
sale. There was no money
And
to do staging,
we
right?
didn't do anything right for
Yeah,
short sales. But I mean, we weren't staging, we weren't doing flyers, we weren't spending any money because we didn't know if we were going to get
e- e-
closed and paid.
exactly. And the seller, part of the hardship was he got relocated to Australia, and so that was you had to have a hardship. And it's like, well, my job took me away. I have to sell.
That qualified as a hardship.
Yeah, it qualified as a hardship. But he was nowhere near the embassy. He was like in northern Australia, nowhere near Sydney or Melbourne or
Out in the
wherever.
outback.
So when you're overseas, you have to sign at a U.S. embassy and maybe a consulate where they have a U.S. notary. So and this is anyway. So
Oh my gosh, you got a great experience on your first transaction.
oh, it's even better because he goes, well, I'm not going down to Sydney anytime, but I have this schedule. I'm going to Singapore to have some dental work on such and such date. And I'm like, all right, you're going to sign when you get to Singapore these documents. And so yeah, he went to the made an appointment opposite his dental appointment in Singapore, signed the documents. We closed the deal. And I
Oh my gosh,
made
what a
like
great experience
$5.
for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, that
$5. It paid for gas.
yeah, right, exactly. Paid for the flour that I stole from my wife.
Exactly.
The but it was probably And then I had like a few more transactions that year, but it was probably 18 months before I would say I was really fully gainfully employed, that I was doing
Mhm.
enough business and made up for all my outlay costs on the way out. Now I had the benefit of my wife was working, so I could bridge the gap, and she was the primary breadwinner. I was a
Yeah.
full-time stay-home dad, and
Yeah.
that's why I only had a part-time job at that moment. But so we had the capacity for me to ramp into it. But you, as a single person, didn't have that backup income. Were you just living off of savings? Is that how you got till you were able to make a full-time
No, I
income?
sold like 12 houses my first year in the business.
Wow,
I
that's amazing.
I was supporting myself. I had a really good first 4 years in the business until the recession kind of caused things to slow down in 2007 and then crash in 2008. I was selling houses, and we yeah, I lucked out basically. The market was in an upswing. Everybody was buying. Rates were low at that time, 6%,
Yeah.
which is where they are now. But I just lucked out. I had a little bit of cushion for if I went a few months between paychecks, because sometimes that happens. But I I just was so lucky. I didn't know anybody. I didn't sell, they say the first year you sell houses to your friends and to your relatives. My relatives weren't buying houses, and none of my friends lived in Contra Costa County. They were all up in Marin or in the city. And I had been working in the city for 22 years, and I didn't really know anybody out here. But I was very lucky.
Yeah, my perception is, I don't know what the failure rate is for real estate agents, but my perception is that that first year is rough for everybody.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
takes a while to get your marketing out there and get people to trust you, especially in our area where there's a lot of really competent agents.
Hmm.
You have to figure out why would somebody trust you over fill in the name of the big agent that's in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it definitely is one of the industries where 10% of the agents are doing 80, 90% of the business,
Yep.
because there's kind of a flywheel effect. If you ever read the book, um, not Good to Great, the one prior to that. But yeah, no, Good to Great, Built to Last is the second one.
Hmm.
He talks about Jim Collins talks about getting your business going, and once it's going, it's like a big flywheel that creates energy for a factory, and you need to apply a lot of energy to get it going, but once it's going, you only have to apply a little bit to keep it moving.
Right. Keep it
And
moving.
so starting a business is starting in real estate is like starting a business. It takes a lot of energy. I'll say a lot of money in the sense that it's all going out. It's not necessarily a lot, but it's all outgoing money. And so how you're feeding yourself and paying your rent is almost is a live conversation. I know there's some agent or some brokers who will require you to be a full-time agent if you're going to be with them because they're
Hmm.
going to invest in you. And I feel that way that if you're going to be an agent, you should be a full-time agent. I mean, there's people that are doing it as
Hard to do it
a
part-time.
yeah, this is how I'm going to pay for vacation. But we're talking about if this is your primary income and you're
Yeah.
doing it full time, that I can accept doing it. Like I worked a part-time job for about the first 6 months before I started doing transactions
Hmm.
and then and then quit so that I could devote it full time. And there is a kind of ramp up period because there isn't 40 hours worth of work to do until you start having transitions or transactions. But I think you need to commit to it full time if you're going to be full time successful. I don't know do you have thoughts about that?
I think so too. And I want to add something on to my experience. It doesn't mean that I was a super agent. I was just lucky. And it was the era before Zillow and Redfin and before people could go and look online at listings. So we were right on the main drag in Lafayette. We were the first brokerage you came to when you took the first exit off the freeway. And we had a big picture window that was filled with all the real estate flyers.
Yeah.
And people would either pull over and stop and walk in, or as they were walking back and forth to the reservoir or out for their daily run, they would stop and look at the flyers in the window. And believe it or not, we had things that were called walk-ins and
Yep.
somebody just walking in the door and saying, I'd like to look at a house and I don't have an agent. And because I was the new person on the job and everybody else was busy with other work, I got all that business. And that does not exist anymore. There are no walk-ins anymore.
Yep.
And the other thing that we had were sign calls because people would be out, driving by, they'd see a house, they'd see a sign, they'd stop and write down the phone number. And if they had a mobile phone or when they got home to their home phone, they would pick up the phone and call. And I got all those calls because the other agents were too busy to take new clients.
Yep.
So it was and those don't exist anymore. Ad calls. Somebody would see an ad in the newspaper. Remember when people had newspaper subscriptions and they actually looked at the real estate ads on Sunday and they'd pick up the phone and call. And I got all those calls. So that's why I sold 10 or 12 houses my first year. I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. It's harder for agents nowadays because walk-ins don't exist, sign calls don't exist, ad calls don't exist, and something called floor time, which I absolutely hated. We did not have it at my first.
Everybody hated floor time.
Hated floor time. Floor time was sitting at a desk and waiting for people to either call or walk in the door. And
Yep.
I had permanent floor time when I was at UCB, which became Sotheby's eventually.
Yep.
But it was required at big brokerages like Coldwell Banker. Everybody had to do floor time, sometimes more than once a week. You were required to sign up for it because that was a way to get business. And that doesn't exist anymore. It's
No.
really good for new agents.
No, no.
Basically there's two ways to get business, and that is either you have a built-in sphere and people who are willing to take a chance on a brand new agent, or you pick up clients at an open house.
Yeah. Well, let's transition, and that's another one of those five big points is
Yeah.
marketing itself. Because
Yep.
this is they definitely don't teach you this
Oh
um,
gosh, no.
in
And
real
people
estate
don't know they
school.
have to do it.
Yeah, they think that they're going to get all their leads. I still have people ask me, "Does your broker give you clients?" And we do get some referrals from our brokerage
Once you're established,
once you're
not when you're
established. But the vast majority, 95% of our business comes from our own marketing.
yeah.
There's lots of there's not one way to do this. There is absolutely as many different agents are out there. There's that many different ways to market to the world and get new business. Let's talk a little bit about how we do it, and then maybe talk a little bit about other ways that other agents do it. So.
Yes.
We focus on a relationship sphere and sphere is an abbreviation for sphere of influence, if I could say that. That's easy.
Hmm.
And so these are people that we know and maybe in other capacities, not limited to just real estate, and
Hmm.
who we may have had some a open warmth between it. Maybe they're good friends, maybe they're just acquaintances, but people that we know that generally have a positive experience when they think about us.
Hmm.
Um, and how do we market? What do we do to market to those people?
Let me add on to the sphere also exists of previous clients.
Oh, yes.
They've been buyers or sellers, or we also have referrers in our sphere, people who haven't worked with us but know us and refer us to their friends.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty complex, different makeup of people.
And those people that haven't used us are because they just haven't bought or sold since they've known us,
Uh,
but they like us enough to give our names out to their
yep,
friends and family. Yeah.
yep, yep. So we market to all of them. And what is your famous saying about marketing?
I only want to market in the ways that I like being marketed to, and I don't
Yes,
like being marketed to.
exactly. And your other thing that you say is you are the product.
Oh yeah, you are the product.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, yes. So there's a lot of I don't say kitschy. I'm not even sure I know the meaning of that word, but there's lots of things that real estate agents do to market themselves
Hmm.
that may be successful, but
Hmm.
I personally find annoying, so I choose not to do them. So don't hear me as a blanket criticism of it. That's just what Sherry and I have agreed upon. Some stuff that she probably would like to do if she wasn't partners with me, and others that she just acquiesces because
Give me an example.
um Well, I've acquiesced to doing pop buys where we will deliver little small gifts, maybe every other month to clients, past clients. So
Yep.
we had a lot of fun making chocolate truffles and delivering those last year,
Yeah.
and those were really well loved. And so while it was fun making them and the people that we delivered them to really liked them, I don't understand the direct connection to real estate. I don't understand our capacity or Sherry's capacity and my capacity for cleaning up afterwards of making these ch delicious chocolate truffles. Why does that say trust Adam and Sherry with real estate?
It's a really fun way to spam somebody every month.
Yeah. Um, and to make them remember, hey, we're in business. We put a little
Yep.
tag on it, refer us to your friends
Yep.
and family.
Yep.
And I guess that that doesn't bother me because what we delivered was something that had value, whether it was real estate or not.
Yeah. That's a
Sometime,
requirement for me as well. We can't just drop off, notepads with our picture on it every
uh,
month. It's got to be something memorable and of value.
yeah, I did notepads very early on, my first year.
Everybody did.
In my geographic farm. So talk about geographic farm is that it happened to be my neighborhood. It doesn't have to be the neighborhood you live in.
Mhm.
But my neighborhood was really owned by somebody else. And when I say owned, I mean there was an agent who had previously lived in that neighborhood, who walked that neighborhood regularly, knew everybody. People trusted him. He did a lot of business there.
He's a great guy,
He is
still
a
in the
great guy.
business.
He is a great guy, yes. Um, and um, and so nobody was going to use me because it was if they were going to pick somebody, they're going to pick the guy that they knew had sold four houses in that neighborhood that year. But I had somebody call out to me and said, "Hey, farmer." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, you're farming the neighborhood, aren't you? I'm like, "Oh no." So it's like that was like I was done. I was walking around dropping notepads on people's doorsteps.
Which is humiliating enough. So
Yeah, so I don't market that way, just geographic farm. I think that's when I decided I was going to start marketing just to people that already knew me.
knew you and liked you.
Yeah, presumably liked me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, so we do pop buys. Actually, that's probably the least thing that we do. The what are kind of our bread and butter is we send out a monthly newsletter that we write
Mhm.
ourselves, and I think that that's I highly value writing it for a couple of reasons. To be honest, I learn better when I have to write. So if there's a new topic, like the way that fire insurance has changed over the last 2 years, so we've picked that topic up a couple times because it's changed, and I feel like I'm a better agent for having to done the work to learn about it and then to write about it in a way that our clients might
Yeah.
learn from it themselves. Um, and then
Many people use AI to write their newsletters. We do not do that.
Yeah, no, right, because it's our voice, and although AI can mimic your voice, it's a learning process for us. We also will streamline that same message into a monthly postcard, and those
Mhm.
are our two main ways of reaching our sphere. And what we feel like is delivering information that is valuable for homeowners, home buyers, home sellers, and establishing ourselves as a industry leader.
Mhm.
I guess we can include doing podcasts too.
Podcasts, yes, blog posts, things like that.
Yeah.
And, listeners are probably wondering, why do you have to send something out to your client, your sphere, every month? Doesn't that seem excessive? But NAR, National Association of Realtors, has done lots of research, and they at one point said that 2 years after you have a transaction with someone to either help them buy or sell a house, they have forgotten your name.
That's really
They said
scary.
it was one of the best experiences of their lives, and everybody was tearful when you had to hand over the keys and part ways. And I'm so sorry, I'm not going to get to see you again. And I hope you love your house. They've forgotten your name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a funny business, but you have to remind them that you are out there to help them or someone they know help buy or sell a house.
Yeah. Well, and again, I feel like what we're offering in those newsletters, blog posts, postcards is relevant information.
Yeah,
It's not just noise. We put a lot of
yeah,
energy into making sure that it's valuable, and that we're happy to put our name on it. Other ways that we might generate new business, classic is doing open houses. So The public, please don't tell them the secret that we agents do open houses not to sell the house, but to get new business.
Yeah.
They're not actually black and white there. It's both. But the reality is, because of Zillow and other tools like that, p buyers are finding houses without needing to go to the open house. And the open house is helpful, but if
Mhm.
somebody really wanted, they're calling their agent and they're going and viewing it.
Yeah.
But for agents, it's a way to meet unattached buyers, buyers that are just looking, and then being able to offer your services and hopefully make a connection. And it might be for that house or probably for another house. We're pretty cautious about double ending a transaction, so it's
Mhm.
pretty rare that we would find somebody at an open house to ride on that. In the current market, when it really is a buyer's market, that could change. And of course, they would need the seller's permission.
Mhm. It's funny. One of the things I looked forward to most when I got into the business was open houses. I thought they were going to be fun, and it's the thing that I like the least.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, do not like it. I do not feel comfortable sitting in a house by myself, and having strangers come in.
Well, you don't have to do it by yourself. We do
Luckily,
them
I don't. We
together.
do them together.
You want to tell people about the one of the first open houses we did together before we were actually partners?
No, I think you should tell them.
Oh, really? You're gonna have me tell it. Okay. So it was my listing for my clients, and Sherry and I were exploring whether we were going to be partners or not. So we started test driving a few things, and so she came to do this open house with me, and I um, people would come in and they start asking questions about the house, and I just instinctively would start answering it. And I wasn't really aware that what was happening is that Sherry would open her mouth to begin to answer the question, but she'd hear my voice come out of her mouth because I was so quick to give the answer to it. And she was not, as you heard, she does not want to have a boss. Not that I was her boss in that situation, but she is a strong, smart, intelligent, independent woman, not needing anything. She doesn't need a partnership. It was, and so to have her open her mouth and have my voice come out of it, what she was pissed.
Well, I think if somebody comes up face to face and looks you in the eye and answers a question, when you open your mouth to answer it, you don't want to hear the guy across the room's voice answering it. That's a funny story now. At the time, I was so annoyed. It's like, and I waited until the house was empty. There was nobody in it. And I said, "Do you mind, if somebody's asking me a question, I want to answer the question." And you were like, "Oh, yeah, sorry." Which made me even madder that you just kind of blew me off. Oh my gosh.
We've come a long way, baby.
We have come a long way, and I don't have to do open houses by myself anymore, so that's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
We all learn how to dance with each other a little bit better as time goes on. Uh,
yes,
I had
like
a
any other relationship.
I had somebody say, you don't, you know, when the closeness comes, like when you're dancing and your partner steps on your toe, and it's like it's annoying, but the only reason why they're that close is because they're close enough to dance with you. And so
Oh,
there are times when in our partnership we bump into each other, and that was the first of a couple. I won't say many, but uh,
that's funny.
we it took us a while to learn how to work together, and I mean now it's pretty easy and
Oh, yeah,
very comfortable.
absolutely. Well, because we are both strong, independent, intelligent people who are have the ability to run our own business, which is why we're in real estate.
Yeah. So
So,
other ways that people market themselves, I mean, we do things like have a client appreciation party every
mhm,
year, a
yeah,
pie party at Thanksgiving, give away pies.
people love that party.
Yeah. Other agents, so some other ways that agents operate. Um, so some will go out of their way to try and do as many open houses as they can. They will find other agents who have houses for sale and offer to hold them open.
Hmm.
There was an agent that you mentored for a while who she held an open question night for home buyers at a bar and
Yeah,
said, "Hey, I'll be in this space at this bar Thursday night at 5 or whatever it was, and
yeah.
please come ask me anything you want about no pressure, no obligation." And
She was a go-getter.
She was very successful at that.
She was also a very successful door knocker.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize she did door knocking also.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. She took at the time all three of her kids and door knocked her neighborhood and picked up
Yeah.
business because of it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, yeah. There are people who will buy leads, and what I mean by that is, or portals like Zillow and Realtor.com and
Mhm.
Trulia. Um, Redfin's different. They have their own agents. But these other broker or portals, they will sell leads. So when a buyer
Mhm.
goes and said, I want to see a tour, they're not giving it to the listing agent. They're giving it to somebody who has paid Zillow for that opportunity. And that can't, and there's lots sorts of people that are trying to sell leads, not just those sites. Um, they claim to vet them, but my experience, I tried it for a little while early on,
Mhm.
and what you got was, 100 people who clicked, yeah, I want to see it, but they had already moved on. If you didn't call them or message them within like 15 seconds, they they were already onto something else, and most of the time they weren't really that interested anyway. So
Yeah.
it's the battle of attrition. You've got to just be pounding away at that. There's other, people will go do other kinds of leads, maybe work with probate lawyers or, retire,
Divorce attorneys.
yeah, divorce attorneys or just other places where there might be
Mhm.
um, other places where people are considering buying and
Yeah.
selling. And it's really open to every buyer or every agent to figure out what their niche is. There's all sorts of ways. I think ultimately, all of these all of these different things, you still have to end up meeting with people in real life.
Mhm.
That there's only so, I mean, we didn't mention social media. I think Sherry and I agree that very, very few homes or clients are found through social media. It's more like fertilizer for relationships that you already
Mhm.
have, and that you have to know people in real life,
Mhm.
whether
Yeah.
that's your neighborhood and hosting a barbecue for your street or an annual rummage sale or being a member of your local pool or the
Mhm.
PTA and all the different ways that you might get to know people. One of the part of Sherry's sphere is quilters. She is known in our local area for her quilting and goes to different groups for recreation, her personal recreation, not
Mhm.
necessarily as a marketing tool, but she's building relationships in real life that then result in people trusting her. And some of our best referrers are people from that quilting group.
And same for you with your church.
That's
Although
right.
you never want to monetize your faith relationship, but people know you and trust you and believe that you are the best person to help them buy or sell a house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's learning how to build trusted relationships, living out loud,
Yeah.
so to speak. I had a manager one time say you can't be a secret agent, and I kind of
Mhm.
disagree with that a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very careful about marketing in certain spaces or not marketing in certain spaces.
Yeah.
But it's not that, that's why social media is a great fertilizer is that, the people that know me then will see the work that I do online without me having to say every time I see them,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to buy a house? Well, no, they get tired of that. Although I have a really good friend who I play golf with regularly, and if I'm having a bad day, I'm now aware he's doing it, but he figured out on his own that if I was having a bad day, he would distract me from the game by asking me about real estate. And as I relaxed into talking about real estate, because it was just natural, like, oh yeah, this is going on, I got this, and this is what's happening, that I stopped obsessing about my swing, making it worse. And as I relaxed, my golf swing fixed itself, or not fixed itself, but
I love that.
um, yeah. So, uh,
I think what it sounds like to me, if I was a new agent and I was hearing this conversation, would be, let's see, you want me to go out and show houses to buyers, and you want me to go out and take listings and sell homes, and you want me to do all the paperwork that's required to keep the DRE and the lawyers happy. And on top of all of that, you want me to market myself and pick up clients too.
yeah. Yeah.
That's more than 40 hours a week.
It is. That's why we said you can't do this part-time or with another job.
Right, right. It's a lot of work. And I think the what happens with a lot of agents, new or established, is they start to get busy and they stop doing their marketing plan because they're too busy to pay attention to it. We are fortunate in that we have a meeting every December where we do business planning for the following year, and we have our wonderful Sally who makes sure that everything that's supposed to happen every month happens. She doesn't write the newsletters for us or the postcards or anything like that, but she keeps us on track. And when things get busy, and there have been times when we've had 7 or 8 transactions going at a time, she makes sure that we know that we've got to get the pop buys out and we've got to get the newsletter written and we've got to get the artwork fixed, as selected for the postcard and things like that. Keep our address lists current, things like that. So it is more than a full-time job.
Yeah. And that's, going back to talking about being on a team, that is one of the advantages of being on a team is that you don't have to necessarily generate all the marketing pieces yourself.
Hmm.
You can use the team marketing pieces and just put your
Yeah.
name on it. You and I are not a team, we're a partnership. We do
Yep.
everything 50-50, and
Yep.
we have some values statements on why we do that. We don't have a buyer's agent who goes and just shows buyers. We do it all because part of the joy for us is actually interacting with the clients.
Yeah.
And I think that, you got to think about what is it that you're selling, and going back to that, we are the product, and
Hmm.
we can't sell ourselves and then do the bait and switch and say, oh, now you're going to work with this junior agent.
Yeah.
There are certain things that junior agents can do for you, but really, as you're coming up, building those relationships so that you're the primary agent is really how you're going to be successful.
Yep.
And kind of a little side note here, a little detail that's probably a little too in the weeds. Um, you need to get a vanity email address from the beginning. And I would highly be thoughtful if you join a team or a partnership that requires you to use their email address. Every brokerage you have will provide you with an email address, but you should really think about having one with your name, because the
Yep.
chances of you staying with that brokerage and that brokerage keeping its name for the length of your career is zero.
Mm.
And so, how are people going to follow you after you've left that? And do you have to send everybody out, hey, I changed my email address, but they've got the old one stuck in there and they don't know how to
Yeah.
get hold of you? So,
Yeah.
I use Adam at Hamalian Properties. Sherry uses Sherry at Sherry Hutchens,
Yeah.
because they will go with us wherever. I'm not that we're going anywhere. Whoever's listening to this, we're not foreboding anything, but it is, it's us.
We are the product.
Yeah, we are the product.
So we should use our own names as much as possible. So,
Yeah. Um, th- uh, what are some of the other topics we talked about? Knowing house, knowing product. That there's not a, that's just, you got to figure out how to do that on your own. Go to as many home inspections as you can. Watch all the episodes of This Old House that you can. I hesitate to
which
tell
is
you
really
to watch.
helpful,
I
actually.
hesitate to tell you to watch Property Brothers or some of the more things on HGTV, although there's really some good stuff there. You just need to know that there's so much editorializing and cutting out of things that you don't think you understand the process when you
Yeah.
watch those things,
Yeah.
because oftentimes the work has already been agreed to. When they're doing like list it or love it or list it, whatever that one is, they've already determined what's going on before they invite that person on, and they
Yeah.
have to go pretend that they're liking something. So don't pretend like you understand the story because you watched any of that, but you can gain information off of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Go out and look at as many houses as you can. You'll start to understand how houses are put together, that in combination with really befriending your inspectors and having them not just inspect, but teach you, when they say something at the summary at the end of an inspection that you don't understand, have them explain it to you.
Yeah. And if you're in front of the clients, ask it in a way that says, help my client understand this. I want to make sure they know what's there. And
Yeah.
you don't have to pretend that you know it, but you don't have to pretend that you don't know it either.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Uh, I mean, I get my knowledge um, from doing remodeling with my dad as property manager,
mhm.
and then my degree in construction, and then just my own work over the years. But I'm not sure how most that's just, yours 25 years of experience going to home inspections and pest inspections. You have a wealth of knowledge. And so for a new agent,
Well,
they need
yeah.
to, you need to go to those home and pest inspections to learn about it.
My mentor had been in the business for 35 years, but before that, he was an engineer. And
Oh,
he taught me all about houses. And if I asked a question about a foundation, he'd whip out a big sheet of paper and draw me a foundation and teach me, everything I needed to know,
he,
at
he,
least to sell a house.
he didn't have a whiteboard.
We did not have whiteboards.
So one of the things that makes Sherry an amazing agent is that she asks really good questions. And so we'll have something come up and she'll say, "Hey, what is this?" And I will whip out the whiteboard and I will draw a diagram of it
Yeah.
until she understands it. But yeah, you are a fool if you pretend you know something you don't know.
Yeah. It's hard when you go out and are first starting to work with clients. And I always tell people that we're mentoring, you always know more than the client. You just don't know you know more than the
Yeah.
client. And they start to ask you questions and you don't know how to answer them.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to say, I don't know, but I will find out the answer for you.
Yeah.
It is a hard thing to say, but you can't fake it. I mean, you can't fake it and give the wrong information. So yeah, learn, learn, learn. If you had to do it again, would you do it again?
Become a real estate agent?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I
Uh,
mean, knowing all the things that you have learned over the years and really how difficult it is. This is not an easy job. Would you do it again?
so I mean, I think the irony is if I knew I was going to do real estate sales, I would have started sooner.
Okay.
Um, because I think that there's a uh, as I've gotten older, I've gotten grumpier, and I don't like people as much as I used to. Um, I'm overstating that for effect.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I was younger and life was expanding, and I had a lot of interaction with a lot of people because of my kids,
Yeah.
and when there was a lot more social engagement with people when my kids were younger. That I think if I had been in the real estate then, I might have solidified some relationships differently.
Yeah.
Um, as far as potentially solidified in people's minds what I do and uh so I think that would have been interesting. I mean, I think that, I mean, if I go all the way back, would I have moved back to Alameda where I grew up, where my family knew lots of people, where I would have been the third generation, and
Yeah.
think about your sphere, because that's one of the things that it's hard for people to accept that some people are successful just because of who they know
Yeah.
and having a long-term relationship. I think about some of the top agents in our office in Lafayette and in other offices in Lafayette are because they've been multiple generations and people just know them. They've built relationships away from real estate that have come into real estate,
Yeah.
and that and this is not it. Please don't hear this as a slight to their real estate ability. You could have great real estate ability, but because people don't know you, don't have a trusted relationship with you, they don't hire you. They hire the person
Yeah.
that they know.
Yeah.
So if I had known that this is what I was going to do, I would have started sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been a good career for me, a good second career for me.
Yeah.
And it can be a really fun business. It is a lot of work, though.
For most people, real estate's a second business.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of like me, stay home parents who it's an easy way to enter back into the workforce because it's not
Mhm.
a 9 to 5. You're still able to pick kids up after school
Mhm.
and maybe go to their sporting events. Although it creeps into your whole life schedule. I mean, fortunately, 30 years ago, the real estate parent was home late for dinner because he was out showing properties and there was no way to call home and say, I'm going to be late and text. Now it's kind of just seamless. Hey, I'll be home 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
Dinner gets held as opposed to, no, we're just going to eat because we don't know when so and so is going to be here.
Yeah.
And I think that, did I mean, ironically, I think I've told you this, that when I was in junior high, I did a vocation test and it said that I should be a real estate agent.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when I was 12, that was the first time it was suggested to me. I often wonder what if I had after college gone right into real estate because I would have had as much fun as I'm having now. And I would have been able to, instead of having a 15-year career, I could have had a, 30 or 40-year career. Um, yeah. And
It's
I,
funny, my test when I was at the same age said I should be a therapist. And I think that's exactly what I do most of the day
there is a little of that, isn't there?
with clients, right?
Yeah. So if we're boiling this down for people listening, thinking they want to go into real estate.
Yep.
One, it's going to take a whole lot more than getting a license. You have to be
Mhm.
comfortable with selling yourself, and
Yep.
you got to master a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
It's going to probably be 12 to 18 months before you've generated a salary. And even then, there's lots of people who have tried it for 2 or 3 years and just aren't able to make it for various reasons. So be prepared to have a ramp up. Three, find a mentor who can teach you the business and help you get experience with transactions along the way, so that you can become a trusted real estate um, consultant.
Mhm.
Did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
if you think you might want to be a real estate agent, give us a call.
Yeah, we have
We'll
not
buy you
open
a cup of
slots on our
coffee.
team, but we have open slots to be able to mentor people, and we love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm not sure it fits this podcast as much as our other ones, but Dorothy was right. There's no place like home. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.